guys, how's it going? Let's talk about lesson 2.2, solving absolute value equations. So to solve an absolute value equation, we're going to isolate the absolute value portion. So we need to get the absolute value by itself on one side of the equal sign. So if the absolute value of something equals something, then we're going to solve for x. We drop the absolute value bars and then solve for x using the positive version of what it's equal to and the negative version of what it's equal to. So, there are two solutions to absolute value problems, most absolute value problems. I'll show you some exceptions in just a second. So a quick example, here is, we've got the absolute value of 3 of x plus 2 equals 8. First, we need to isolate the absolute value, right? So that means getting this absolute value of 3x by itself on one side of the equal sign. We need to subtract 2 from both sides, so that gives us 3x equals 6. Now we have absolute value of something equals something, right? So now we need to solve for x for both the positive version of that thing and the negative version of that. I've set it up here. We've got 3x minus 6. The absolute value of 3x equals positive 6, and the absolute value of 3x equals negative 6. Okay, then we just drop the absolute value bars and solve. So 3x equals 6. That gives us x equals 2. 3x equals negative 6. That gives us x equals negative 2. So there's two solutions. There are two different exceptions to this. So when we do isolate the absolute value and it equals 0, that means there's only one solution to that absolute value problem, because you can't make a positive 0 and a negative 0. There's no such thing. It's just 0. And also when we isolate our absolute value and it equals a negative, that means there is no solution. Some examples of that. Here is our equation that we're starting with. So first step, isolate the absolute value. So we need to subtract 7 on both sides. So that gives us 0. Then we need to divide by 9, right? 0 divided by 9 is just 0. So now we've isolated our absolute value. It's by itself on one side of the equal sign and equals 0, which means there is only one solution to this. You can't have a positive 0 and a negative 0. So we drop the absolute values and then we go ahead and solve for x. So here we've dropped the absolute values. Then we just solve for x. We add 2 to both sides. That gives us this. 4/3 x equals 2. So we multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of this fraction over here. So that gives us 4x equals 6. Then we divide by 4. 6 over 4 is the same as 3 over 2. There we go. We solved it, and there's only one solution, and we knew that back up here because when we isolated our absolute value, it equaled 0. Okay, let's take a look at an example when our absolute value equals a negative number. So here is our problem. Step 1, isolate the absolute value. That's always the first thing we do. So let's subtract 2 from both sides. So that gives us negative 5. Absolute value of x plus 1 equals 10. Then we divide by negative 5 to isolate our absolute value. That gives us absolute value of x plus 1 equals negative 2. Here is what I mean when I say when our absolute value is equal to any negative. That means there's no solution. So that's it. When it's equal to a negative, there's no solution. These aren't super difficult. Just always remember, isolate the absolute value first, and then usually you'll be solving for the positive version and the negative version. Solve for x, there's two solutions, with two exceptions. When x equals 0, there's one solution, or when the absolute value of x is 0, there's one solution, and when the absolute value of x equals any negative, then there's no solution. All right, I think you guys can do it. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. And let me know. Bye.